You're watching the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on today's program are the Oklahoma City Thunder the new villains of the NBA? We'll discuss that coming up in just a moment.
I'm Rylan Stiles. I'm going to tell you about Aaron Wiggins' recent slump and what that means for the Thunder down the stretch.
I'm Jay Lamb. I'm going to talk about SGA and his impact on the team.
I'm Derek Parker, and we're going to talk about the versatility of these Thunder big men.
This is Locked On's Thunder Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Thunder talk gets real. No filters, no fluff, just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game, the way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Thunder Squad Show starts now.
What's good, everybody? Welcome in to a brand new week here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Tyler Jones here with you. Happy to have you with us. And we are expanding our squad a bit. We are pleased. Everybody give a round of applause and welcome in Derek Parker, who now joins us on the crew. We're excited to have him contributing alongside the rest of us, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb, Tyler Jones here. Derek, welcome to the team. You were with us in for Jeremy a couple weeks ago, and you did so great that we got to bring you back on regularly now, man. So welcome to the squad officially, my friend.
I appreciate it, guys. I'm happy to make the squad just a little bit bigger.
Awesome. Well, we'll dive in here in just a moment with plenty to talk about today. From are the Thunder the new villains in the NBA? SGA's return, as he's looked really good these first two games back. Aaron Wiggins in a bit of a slump right now, and then the versatility of the Thunder's bigs on display. We'll talk about what they can do potentially with those lineups and more coming up in just a bit. Let's start with the idea of the Thunder being the new villains of the NBA. This was thrown out there by Bill Simmons of The Ringer on his podcast, the Bill Simmons Podcast, just a few days ago. And there was a few things that Bill Simmons pointed to in his reasoning of why Oklahoma City could be considered the new villains of the NBA. One of the things he pointed to was what Lou Dort did to Joker just the other night against the Denver Nuggets, saying that was the dirtiest thing he's seen all season. He didn't like some of the commercials that Thunder players have been in. He also named, even going back to the team, moving from Seattle to Oklahoma City, and a number of things that were brought up, according to Simmons, in his idea of the Thunder being this villain idea. One thing he brought up was Sam Presti, who we know went through a tanking process and has kind of taken a different approach. There was reports a few weeks ago he was not too happy with how the Utah Jazz were going about their business, and that top 8 protected pick could get taken away from Oklahoma City and go to Utah. But nonetheless, with the things that are brought up here, Bill Simmons isn't the only one that's talked about this either. There's been others the last couple of days that are kind of hatching on to this idea as well. Jeremy, I'll start with you here. Villains, is that the right term to describe this Thunder team right now?
Absolutely not. I mean, you're going to have the spotlight on you. You're going to have the microscope on you when you're on top. You know, you're the best team in the league. You're the defending champs. People don't like what Sam Presti is doing, but if they could do it, they would. You know, all the picks, the way he knows how to put a team together. And, you know, he's done this twice. He put a great team together who looked like they was going to win the championship. It didn't work out. They had to go through some years where he was building a team again. He got rid of some players that he might not wanted to, but he had to do that in order to, you know, build the team that they are today. And if you got, you know, some success, everybody's going to look to hate. But at the end of the day, they're physical every game. It really just depends on how good or bad the other team is playing. If you're a player and somebody's being physical with you, but you're playing well, you might let some stuff go. If you just had an injury or you're not playing well, you might get a little more mad. So they've been playing this way, you know, all year, all last year. I call it physical. I wouldn't say it's dirty. But as far as being the villain, absolutely not. They're just the team to beat. And at some point, they might could end up being the villain just because when you're on top for so long, people want to, take you down. So it could be one day, but right now they still building, and there's no way I'll give them that title.
Yeah. One thing that Simmons brought up too was the idea that, hey, the Thunder have all these draft picks and are set for the future for so long. And I've seen somebody else this past week talk about how that this team doesn't act like they've been there before, that they still act like every win is their first win that they've had. And Doris Burke went after SGA in a game that he wasn't even playing in on Sunday. Derek, what I'm sensing, maybe not villain is the right term, but I'm seeing some jealousy where everybody wishes that they were the Oklahoma City Thunder, a small market team that is built for the long term, that has all this going for them, that's making the correct decision after correct decision here. I don't know if villain is what I'd be going for here, but I think everybody wishes they were the Oklahoma City Thunder right now.
Yeah, I agree with Jeremy. I think there's a naturalness to just being on top that makes other organizations want to cover where you're at and where the Thunder are at. If these other orgs could, go out and get 20 first-round picks and have a defensive roster of this talent, they absolutely would, and they don't. And I think that just kind of leads to some of the things that are popping up, whether it be the physicality that other teams are playing with right now. I think they're really challenging Oklahoma City in this area. I think the Thunder are also kind of stepping up to bat in that regard. They didn't back down against Denver. They didn't back down against even the teams like New Orleans. So I don't know that villain is the right word. I don't think this Thunder team, personality-wise, I don't know if they have villain in them. Like we talked about it earlier. They like each other and they're just like kind of a happy-go-lucky. They don't act like they're really the team on top. So to me, it's kind of hard to genuinely hate that. I don't think villain is the right word, but of course, they're still the team that everyone's looking to dethrone right now. And I think that's where a lot of this stems from.
So, Rylan, let's bring you in here. How would you define this Oklahoma City Thunder team? If they're not the villains, what are they in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that right now they can be considered the villains of the NBA just from the simple fact of there is not a true villain in the NBA. There is not. We're in the midst of this parity era where there has not been a repeat winner since 2018. There's not been a team that's reigned supreme over the league and has really had time to fester. Enough of a villainous role. And you look at Oklahoma City, and they're a team that can really needle you because of all of what they do so well, because of they're so set up for the future, because they're so foolproof right now with their defense and their physicality and what they force you to do each and every night, which is match them at their physicality level, which is match them in their intensity levels. And a lot of teams don't want to do that in the regular season. And so you can see them have to flip the switch on, if you will. And then when they win, yes, they're going to have the group interviews with Nick Gallo. They're going to have some fun after every win because it is fun to win in professional sports. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of why you go out there. Besides getting the money, you also want to win. So I think that the Thunder can be viewed from other franchises as the villain if you consider villain being just what you're chasing. You're chasing the Thunder. You're chasing to have that version of excellence for yourself. And it will be very sweet for these teams if they're able to knock out OKC. And if they're not able to knock out OKC and the Thunder get a second championship and they're the first repeat winner since 2018, then it's full-blown villainhood for the Thunder, which is not a bad thing for the NBA at all. To have a team that everybody is chasing, have a team that everybody is trying to knock off. That's what's led to some very successful eras in NBA basketball. When you're chasing the Celtics, you're chasing the Warriors, you're chasing the Lakers or whoever's been at the top at the time. So I think that with the Thunder, it's nothing malicious in the sense of them being the villains. I would more so put it as just they're the standard in the NBA right now. And they're the team that you have to deal with. You have to get through. You don't have to respect them. You don't have to like them, but you got to deal with them. And it's just the moving of the goalpost, if you will. I mean, last year, nobody was afraid of the Thunder because they did these group interviews and because they were so immature, so to say, and lacking of experience. And then all of a sudden they won the championship. And now we'll act like you've been there before. Now, all of a sudden, you shouldn't be doing the group interviews that you once thought was a bad thing. Just like in the NBA, we once said that the league was too soft and that nobody plays defense anymore and that nobody has any physicality anymore. Well, then the Thunder implement this strategy of defense and this strategy of physicality, and no, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. I mean, the Thunder play a style of basketball that everybody's been craving. They operate in the mid-range with SGA, in the lost art of the mid-range that we used to say. They operate with a level of physicality that we used to say was lost in the NBA. But now that the Thunder are doing it and winning, it's not good enough, and it's not good for the sport. Really, it is just jealousy from the rest of the NBA.
At times we've seen in this league, guys, where the NBA almost feels like it has a WWE-like script to it to an extent. You have LeBron, of course, leaving Cleveland to go to Miami. And, like, if there was ever a villain in this league, it was LeBron and the big three there with Bosh and Wade. And then Oklahoma City fans know firsthand Kevin Durant going to Golden State and that heel story there, pairing up with Draymond Green, who was the ultimate heel in this sport. If you're looking for a heel in the NBA, I don't really see that in this Oklahoma City team's identity, Jeremy. You can't really force these things, but if somebody is that, I'm maybe pointing to Victor Wembanyama. Like, that guy is such a freak in what he is defensively, and coming over from France, and here he is, bringing the Spurs back with their identity here. I don't think that villain identity necessarily belongs in Oklahoma City. I would look elsewhere. Maybe Victor's that guy.
Yeah, it's been a while since it's been like a team that's been a villain. Like you said, you had LeBron. He was the villain for a while. Everybody thought he was soft. Everybody was mad that he teamed up. Like you said, KD, he was a villain. Even Draymond was a villain at one point. But if we're going to say villain, I think the closest team to a villain or individual player is maybe Isaiah Stewart. Detroit, like, they're bullies now. People don't like playing against them. They feel like, they get away with pushing and shoving, and that's why they always about to, fight somebody. So they trying to really bring back that bad boys persona and bad boys image that they, had back in the day. So if anybody, I'll say maybe that team is the closest to being a villain. But as of right now, I wouldn't just label anybody as the villain just because I feel like it's been a while since we've actually had that.
Rylan, what I'll go to you on this is, like, whatever you want to call them, whether they're the heroes or the villains of the NBA, what's now, comparatively speaking to in the past, is they have everybody's attention, that they are getting everyone's best night in and night out. And while the record might not be as good as what it was last year, this team is being battle tested more than they were before. And I think ultimately that's going to have a payoff for this team.
Yeah, I think that with this team, I think that they're going to be a better team at the end of the season than they were a year ago from their experience level that they're gaining, even though the record will not be the 68 wins that it was last year, and certainly not the 70-plus wins that they once were in line for. You look at this stretch in February where Isaiah Joe's had to do a lot more and Cason Wallace has had to do a lot more. Like, those two guys can get that and pay dividends from it come the postseason, as we talked about last week on this show. You also look at the Thunder's ability to, now having seen the pictures of a full postseason run where they had to dig deep and win 2 7-game series, there's going to be a different sort of calmness about this team in the postseason. You can turn to even game ones of those games and with the 7 games, where if they were just a little bit more composed, they probably don't drop those games in those series. And now you have that to lean on, and now you have that to work with. Credit to them last year for learning that on the fly, but it's going to be different to have that from the word go, that sense of confidence about you from the word go. And so I think that with OKC, they will be a much better team than they were last year because of these guys naturally getting better and because of the experiences that they can take. Look, I mean, I don't think that last year's team, for as great as they were, I don't think that they win in overtime against Denver last year whenever you're down SGA, Lou Dort, and Isaiah Hartenstien for that overtime period. I don't think that they pull it off against Denver in the regular season last year, in a season that they won 68 games. I think that was in large part due to these experiences that we're talking about, which is pretty scary for the rest of the NBA, that they continue to get better.
Let's ask you, Derek, to Rylan's point there. Do you think this team, when healthy, is a better squad than what we saw that championship team a year ago?
I think they can be. I think the runway certainly is kind of nearing a point of no return, where you got to get J-Dub back. You got to get AJ Mitchell back and fold these guys in quickly. You're going to have, 20-ish games to do so. I think they can get to that point. It's going to happen quick. I think the goal is to, get the offense back on track. I think there's been times where it's kind of been up and down. J-Dub can obviously help with that. AJ Mitchell obviously offering the creation, the three-point shooting that he does. So I think they certainly can. The defense can theoretically be better. I think they've folded in pieces that, have clicked a little better. Isaiah Joe's taken strides. Jared McCain is this new option that you can go to potentially even in the postseason. He's been that good. So I think they can be better. I think it is, though, going to be an uphill battle given the injury concerns that they've had this season.
Before we take our first time out of the show today, I got to check in on the chat here for a moment. Everybody's excited about this foursome, this new squad we have here with the addition of Derek. And I see Caleb saying, I bet the squad could get more than a few wins at your local rec center. Give J Lamb the ball and get out of the way. J Lamb, that sounds like the game plan. It's you're leading us to the free throw line here.
I would say I need about a month to work out. I haven't touched a basketball, so let's play team ball. Don't just get out the way.
We'll see what we can do.
But appreciate it though, Caleb.
What's Mark Jackson say? Hand down, man down. I'll step up on defense. Let you do the work offensively. More to come on the Thunder Squad show. Let's talk about SGA and his return. 2 games back, and he's already had 30-plus in each of those games. We'll dissect that. Also, Aaron Wiggins in a bit of a slump. What does he need to do to bounce back? We'll discuss that and more as we continue here on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad show. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill is still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need to make the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire. This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. We continue on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad show. Tyler Jones, Derek Parker, Jeremy Lamb, Rylan Stiles back here with you now as we roll on here on this Tuesday. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander made his return against the Denver Nuggets on Friday night. He was on a minutes restriction, did not play in overtime of that win, but even still scored 36 points, going 12 of 29 from the field. And also had 9 assists along with 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 3 rebounds. Then he followed that up on Sunday, playing in 33 minutes with 30 points, going 12 of 20 from the field with 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 steals in the Thunder's decisive win over Dallas. Rylan, let's start with you on this. SGA looking really good. Didn't miss a beat in his first 2 games back.
Yeah, it's been impressive to see his ability to quickly get into rhythm. I mean, he started out 1 for 5 against Denver and then never looked back after that. And from there, he's been clicking on all cylinders. And that's tough to do for a guy that is relying a lot on his ability to create space in the mid-range and knock down mid-range jumpers. To have that touch, to have that feel right away has been impressive to see from him, but also expected because he is the model of consistency. And then you also look at he talked about it after the game. He had a poster dunk on Max Christie, which is few and far between in his NBA career to get a poster dunk. But he said at the time off, like that, yes, they were intently working out and they were like obviously ramping him up to where he doesn't feel like he's missed a beat cardio-wise from this time off that he's had with the 9 games that he missed. But it also let his legs get back underneath him to be able to spring up to the rim in that instance and dunk on Max Christie. So I think that overall, you feel really encouraged by where he's at and how he has seamlessly both scored the basketball, but also you mentioned the assists. When he's on the court, this team just generates any shot that they want to, and he really does a great job of leveraging his gravity as a scorer and the attention that he draws from a defense to set his teammates up, and his teammates are in a better position now to knock those shots down, given that the confidence that they're playing with at this current moment in time. So all around, it's been really awesome, and he's talked really maturely about the minute restriction. Like, obviously he said as a competitor, he hates it, but he understands that, look, if they're not careful here, then if he re-injures this injury, then it's all over. So, like, what was this all for? So you have to be very cautious. And it's a really great job by Mark, I think, in that Denver game to explain to Shai. Mark was really intentional with revealing this detail that before the game even began, he pulled in Shai, he pulled in Isaiah Hartenstien, just those 2 guys, did not tell the whole team, but he told those 2 guys, if this game does go to overtime tonight, you guys aren't playing in overtime. And it's like to have that sort of full picture, even before you know how a game's going to play out, I think is a great job by Mark. And I asked Shai about how important that communication was. And Shai mentioned that it was pretty important because it's the only way they could have done it. As a competitor, you could not have just sprung on him after the fourth quarter ended and said, you know what, you're not going back in, Shai. He had to have some time to digest that throughout the game to know he was not going to go back in overtime. And a credit to the players, not named Shai and Ihart, to look around at the opening tip of overtime and say, oh, wait, we don't have 3 starters now because of these minute restrictions, and still go get the win. So all the way around, a very fun weekend for Shai, very fun weekend for the Thunder to get a couple wins.
Derek, this Thunder team still missing several players, of course, but what a night and day difference the way this team played these 2 games with getting the MVP back on the court here.
Yeah, he just offers them such a baseline. He's a one-man offensive game plan, not in the sense that he's going to be the only one scoring, but in the sense that all 5 of the defenders on the floor have to take him into account. He just has so much gravity, probably more gravity than anyone not named Nikola Jokic. So he really does just completely change the flow of everything when he's on the court. He literally will give you 20 points a night. We've seen that now for 120 plus games. More often than not, he's going to give you 32, potentially even more than 32. So obviously huge impactful performances against both Denver and Dallas. Just a game-changing player. And again, the Thunder have based their system around him. They went out and got all of this defense to surround this offensive supernova, and they've got shooters in Isaiah Joe and Jared McCain to play off of guys like Shai. So it's all based around him. He's phenomenal. He got right back into it, as Rylan touched on, after the 1-for-5 start. So he's been great.
Jeremy, how about you? What do you like so far from SGA and his return here?
It's just incredible to see how he continues to dominate, even though the whole team is literally making a game plan so he can't score, so he can't be comfortable. And yet he's always comfortable out there, whether he's out for a couple games and come back, whatever it is. It's like he hasn't missed a beat. Yeah, that first game, he wasn't in total rhythm, didn't shoot as well as he usually do, and then came right back and shot 12 for 20. So just to see him continue to keep his foot on the gas, never be settled, never like is complacent. He's always trying to find a way to make himself better, make his teammates better. And what he's done this year is just making the right pass. It takes pressure off him. And like Derek said, the weapons he has around him now is definitely taking some pressure off him. But what he's been able to do game after game, night after night, after just putting out so much energy, but always being ready to play and making his teammates better at the same time, it's incredible.
Rylan, with him coming back and having those back-to-back 30-point games, he's inching so closer to that 20 straight games record here. He's right on the verge.
Yeah, he's getting really close. Obviously, you look at it, and he's been so consistent. He just broke the record for most consecutive 20-point games on the road on Sunday. He has 59 straight games on the road with 20-plus points, breaking Wilt's record all-time there. And then now you look at him sitting at 123. He needs to get to 126 to tie the record from Wilt, and then 127, of course, to break the record and be the sole possession holder of the number one record for most consecutive games with 20-plus points, which would be, obviously, anytime you can break a Wilt record, you're doing something right. He's already broken one because Wilt used to have number 1 and 2. Shai now firmly has 2, and then you're looking to get 1. And so that's really impressive because there's a reason why this record has stood around since Wilt Chamberlain. And if you can, he's like a Paul Bunyan-like legend. If you can break a record that he held, you're doing something in an exceptional way.
Derek, the MVP race, we were just talking on Friday's show about how the number was down to 6. And now with SGA coming back and putting up these type of numbers, as long as he doesn't miss any games, this is his MVP to lose again if it wasn't already, right?
It feels like it, especially in tandem with, Denver's now the 5th seed. Jokic has been incredible, averaging a triple-double, but I struggle to see the gap narrow any at all if Oklahoma City's at 1, even 2 at the absolute minimum if San Antonio does pass them. And if Denver's 5 and flailing a little bit and have underachieved relative to their expectations, on top of Shai, getting this record, playing potentially even better than he did last year when he won MVP, it kind of feels like a wrap if he can have all of these things come together at the same time.
Jeremy, when you look at what's ahead for Oklahoma City, now you got SGA back, still waiting on some other guys here, and they're still winning here. Like, to me, it's so impressive that this team, like, no matter who they put out there, they still have had a chance every single night, it seems, for this regular season, even without much continuity here.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. They've had even though they have a great record, they've had a great great deal of challenges with injuries, and they've taken scrutiny from people just thinking they just sitting players and stuff like that. Like, they've had so many players out, but the fact that they can still grind and grind out these wins is huge. It's gonna help down the road. If you're still able to play your game, you're not going on losing streaks. You might lose one here, lose one there, but they get right back on schedule. That's just going to help them. And then just showing the discipline of, I don't care, what game it is, what time it is, y'all are not playing in the overtime. That's huge. It shows that they're ready for a big run, and they're not just going to, just sacrifice one game or playing more minutes just to get one win. They're playing the long road, the long haul. So for them to get those wins is huge, and it's definitely going to help them later in the season.
Rylan, how would you compare what SGA has done this season compared to last season? His points per game is down slightly, from 32.7 to 31.8, but his minutes are down by about a minute. But he's shooting at a higher percentage from field goal range and 3-point range. What do you think is from SGA? Has this been a better year than last year, or is it pretty close?
I think that obviously it's close. Like, he's at his peak as a player right now, but there's been the subtle differences that can actually pay off bigger in pressurized moments like the postseason. You look at his assist numbers right now, and they should be even more gaudy because the Thunder went through that stretch early in the year where they just were shooting the ball so horrifically that he didn't have a lot of the assists capitalized on. That's why his potential assist numbers are still off the charts, because he's setting guys up at such a high clip that they should be knocking them down at a higher rate. But you look at his game, and I think the biggest difference is his ability to read the floor and his ability to make creative passes out of situations where he's getting double teamed. Whenever you blitz him off of a screen, he can throw that pocket pass now and split the defense to Ihart, who now Hartenstien can make a play out of the short roll and get it to the next man and get an open look for the Thunder. He's a really, really improved passer and playmaker for this team to understand how to benefit his teammates and try to free himself up as well. If you have to start respecting his teammates more and leveraging towards his teammates more, then that gives you one less opportunity to, of course, give all your attention to Shai. And even so, you mentioned that the efficiency's gone up, which is unbelievable because he already had the best efficiency of a guard scorer that we've ever seen. With his efficiency going up, it just shows that he can continue to get tough buckets every single night, because he's played a lot of these nights without the guys who can take pressure off him, without a J-Dub who can take pressure off of him with the ball in his hands. Like, yes, Chet's been out there. Chet's more of that play finisher that you kind of just react to. You don't necessarily gravitate toward on the offensive end. With J-Dub, whenever he gets back in the fold, you can see that they're going to really have to pick their poison defensively and be spread thin because of his creative ability to get the ball out of his own hands with SGA. So that has been the biggest step forward to me, has been his playmaking.
We want to thank you for making the Locked On Thunder podcast your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. If you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Access to an ad-free audio feed for the Locked On Thunder podcast, compatible with Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every other major podcast app. An invite to the members-only Locked On Everydayer Club Discord server, which includes a group chat just for listeners of this show where you can interact with Rylan. All you have to do is go to lockedonthunder.supercast.com or tap the link in the show notes to learn. Derek, I'll ask you one more thing before we wrap up this segment here. So the first step for SGA was getting back on the court. And then it was playing at a high level and with the minutes restriction. And he's exceeded every test so far at this point through 2 games. What's the next thing SGA needs to do in this progression of getting up to 100% at this point?
I think at this point, he just needs to stay healthy. It's clear when he's on the floor that he is going to be 32 points per game, 6 assists per game. He's going to, command the rock. He's going to play with poise. He's going to hit big shots. He's going to do all the things that you want a superstar to do. At this point, he's just got to stay on the court, much like the rest of the Thunder roster. I think when they do have their full complement of players, they're the best team in the NBA. Shai is obviously the biggest part of that as the reigning MVP, the front runner for MVP. So as long as he can stay on the floor, as Rylan touched on earlier, the abdominal strain, if that comes back, then what is this all for? So got to stay healthy. That's pretty much the #1 rule for the Thunder right now as they hit this home stretch.
Halfway home here on the Thunder Squad show. Up next, Aaron Wiggins in a bit of a slump right now. What does he need to do to get out of it? We'll discuss that. Also, the versatility of the Thunder's bigs on display. Mark Daigneault getting very creative with what he's been able to do with the lineups. We'll discuss that as we roll along here on this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad show. Stay with us. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. March is a time to celebrate women, especially around International Women's Day, and to recognize just how much they carry at work, in relationships, in families, and in all the unseen roles they step into every single day. It's easy to celebrate their strength, but it's just as important to make space for their emotional well-being. And honestly, that goes for all of us. I love my mom. She's the best person I know. And I think about how my mom and how much she carries without always saying so. And it makes me think how many of us are doing the same thing. The roles we play, the expectations we carry, the pressure we don't always talk about. Therapy can help with all of that, creating balance, setting healthy boundaries, and supporting your overall well-being. With over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 6 million people served worldwide, BetterHelp is the world's largest online therapy platform, and it works. Fill out a short questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and if it's not the right fit, switch at any time. Your emotional well-being matters. Find support and feel lighter in therapy. Sign up and get 10% off at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. That's BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. Thunder Squad show rolls on. Tyler Jones, Derek Parker, Rylan Stiles, Jeremy Lamb back here with you now. Guys, let's continue and turn our attention towards Aaron Wiggins now, as he has not been playing that well as of late. He had the 20-point game against the Detroit Pistons, but other than that, he has been on the struggle bus. Played 15 minutes against Dallas, was held in check, just 6 points to 7 from the field. Against Denver in 8 minutes, was held in 2 points. And then against Toronto last week in 17 minutes, was held to 8 points, going 4 of 10 from the field in that one there. Rylan, I'll start with you here. What is going on with Aaron Wiggins right now?
Yeah, it's been bad for Wiggins in this stretch, and this has been someone who the Thunder have really in the past been able to get a lot from offensively. In the past, he's been their third best shot creator on this roster because of his ability to handle the basketball, create separation, score efficiently at all three levels. And that has been what's lost from him right now. He does not have as clean of a handle as he once did, and that's not allowing him to get open shots. It's also having him stumble into a few more turnovers than what you're used to seeing from him. And so mix that with his lack of touch right now at all three levels, and you get a really bad product on the offensive end from Aaron Wiggins at this current segment of the season. And the thing is, I don't think anyone knows what's going on with Aaron Wiggins right now, because it's not as though he's forgotten how to do these things. This is the first time in his NBA career, even as a second-round guy, because you remember how fast his career started with the Thunder. Like, this is the first time in his whole career that he's not been an additive player to this Thunder offense. He's not been a boost to this Thunder offense. It's been in this stretch right here. So it is an outlier. It is eyebrow raising because of the fact we've never seen this before, but it's not as though he forgot how to impact the game at such a high level. So whether it's an underlying injury that he's trying to fight through because he was hurt earlier this year with a similar abductor strain, whether it's that still lingering for him or just a very funky stretch, whatever it is, the Thunder need him to break out of it sooner than later, because it is getting late early on this season, and you're going to have to start making some very tough decisions with what you're going to do with your rotation coming up. And so games like tonight against Chicago, whenever Shai's resting, whenever iHeart's resting, and you don't have your full complement, games like tonight could go a long way in seeing him try to break out of this slump. But it's absolutely a slump. And to Mark's point Sunday, look, they're going to have to ride it out with him because they have such confidence in his overall body of work that we just touched on. And they're going to need him at some point. They're going to need his offense because it is such a spark plug ability for how quickly he can score the basketball at times. But it's got to be better. It's got to get better than this. And we'll see if he can turn it around.
Jeremy, let me ask you, if you are a teammate or you're a coach of Aaron Wiggins, what are you saying? What's kind of the encouragement or the message to a player like that that's going through a struggle like he's going through? Is that something you can relate to? Have you been in kind of a circumstance like Wiggins is going through right now? What would you want to hear if you were him?
Honestly, sometimes you don't want to hear nothing. When your teammates, obviously I've always had teammates that encourage me and stuff like that. And I'm sure on the outside looking in, looking at how their team is made up and how much they love each other, I'm sure they're telling them, like, stay with it, trust your work. I'm sure he's still getting his work in, but at times it is tough when, one, you're on such a great team. Your minutes are up and down, dealing with injuries. He's a rhythm player, so if it was me, I would just want my teammates to just continue to tell me, you good, continue to shoot, continue to work on your game. It's going to come around. And when your teammates trust you still, they still passing on the ball, still trust them with the ball, and trust them in the game on both ends. I think, like I said, on the outside looking in, they're probably just telling them, stay with it because you're going to get out of it. Because slumps don't last unless you just, soak in it and let it mess with your mental and stuff like that. But he's mentally tough. Like I said, I'm sure he's still working, and yeah, he'll get out of it. But like Rylan said, hopefully sooner than later.
Corum in the chat says, I'd invite him over for a bro night. Maybe that's what he needs. Derek, what's so odd about this? Like, it's just so unconventional. This is not like Aaron Wiggins here. I mean, even you go back to the game when he scored 20 points against Detroit, he shot less than 38%, and he was 2 of 7 from 3. This is just very uncharacteristic for Aaron Wiggins right now.
Yeah, I think to Rylan's earlier point, it could certainly be some sort of injury. I think this roster as a whole has been dealing with something or another across the board. It could also just be, kind of a lack of fluidity right now. It just doesn't feel like, to me, things are very synced up. The 3-point shot has not been, holistically worse than last season. He's at 37% on 4.6 attempts. That's a few more than last year. It's mostly the driving, the handle, the finishing. and he just looks a step off. Like whether he's, taking players off the dribble, the moves aren't necessarily working. The footwork hasn't been as great as it has been in the past. The finishing touch has been really bad. So I think it's just something he's got to work through. To Jeremy's point, it's going to come around. Like this is a guy who has so much sample of being a good scorer in the NBA. We've seen it for 4 seasons now. He's never shot less than 46%. This year it's 42. Last year he had this huge 20-game sample of scoring 18.5 points, and he was doing everything, scoring at all 3 levels. It's going to come back around, and the Thunder really need it to come back around soon because this was a guy that was pretty pivotal to a few games in the postseason last year. Is he one that, is the 6th or 7th player in the rotation? No, but can he get hot quickly and be a spark plug scorer as, the 8th, 9th man in a pivotal series against Denver or San Antonio? Absolutely. So they're going to need Aaron Wiggins down the stretch of this season.
Rylan, I'll say this, kind of like what Derek was talking about there. You have these games in the postseason where you have different X factors that step up depending on who's hot and what the matchups are. Aaron Wiggins, for him, the main key is going to be just staying ready, right? I mean, sure, he's not playing his best ball right now, but eventually there is going to come a night when they need him to step up and have that showing. And his history says he's more than capable of coming through in big moments here.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly has to stay ready and find a way to get back on track and to get more in sync with himself and with his game. And the Thunder have to stay ready too. I think that Mark did a great job on Friday of trying to put him in first off the bench in place of Shai. In my view, that was a sense of, hey, Shai's not going to play his normal rotation where he plays the full first quarter, he plays a full third quarter, and then half of the other 2 quarters. So they wanted to try to, whenever they pulled Shai out the 7-minute mark, they wanted to try to replicate Shai's scoring ability the best they could. And of the options off the bench, he was their best guy to go to, given his body of work. And it didn't work out at all on Friday. And so he only played 8 minutes, and 7 of those minutes came in the first quarter. So it really shows you how much they didn't play him throughout the bulk of that very competitive game. And so like the Thunder were ready to pivot if it wasn't working, and Wiggins was ready to go into the game first off the bench. And it's going to take both of those teams, both of those parties to be feeling it out of just, okay, you can still try Wiggins, but if he's not who he's supposed to be on the offensive end, there's truly, and with all due respect, because I do think he has improved his defensive ability, but not enough to offset what he would be losing if he was not up to par offensively. If he's not up to par offensively, you just can't play him. And so I think that whenever you look at it, both parties have to be ready to pivot and be ready to go into the game, etc. And so far, they've really done that very well, like including on Friday, like we just touched on.
Well, and Jeremy Wall, he has not played well as of late. Aaron Wiggins, the new guy in town, Jared McCain, has played so well, the complete opposite. He also had 20 points in that game against Detroit, 14 against Denver, 11 against Dallas here. Could we potentially see, down the line, more Jared McCain and less of Aaron Wiggins here?
Yeah, I think it would be game to game. I don't think it's anything that's just permanent where you just say, we got to take Aaron Wiggins totally out the lineup. But Jared McCain has been playing well. He's shown that he can score on 3 levels. In the playoffs, though, sometimes it gets tricky with matchups, defensively, different things. People are already trying to post them and little things like that. So sometimes you still want a bigger body who, like we said, Aaron Wiggins can still do things on the offensive end. It's just out of rhythm. So having that big body playing defense on, again, whatever the matchup is from game to game, because most of the time you make adjustments from game to game in the playoffs. Regular season, most of the time you got a way of playing. When you got to play somebody seven games straight, you got to make adjustments or, you might fall behind. So I think it's big on game to game, but Jared McCain definitely will get his opportunities, and so will Wiggins. He'll still have some opportunities.
Derek, when you look beyond this year, what do you think the future holds for Aaron Wiggins here with this Oklahoma City team?
Honestly, I kind of echo Jeremy's sentiments there just across the next several seasons. Like it's not going to be a thing where he's going to get totally, relegated from this lineup because of a down stretch. he's on a really good cost-controlled contract. He is a talented offensive player that, again, things are going to swing back around. So I think he's going to continue to be a part of this rotation, whether it's folding him in next to a guy like Jared McCain. Like, these guys can both shoot threes. They can both handle the ball, whether it's staggering these guys minutes or overlaying him into defensive-minded lineups. Like, he's still a really talented player. Again, one of the better contracts in the league in terms of what he's averaging, the impact he brings. So I think Aaron Wiggins is going to be with this team for the long haul.
More to come on the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Our final segment ahead, the versatility of the bigs. The Thunder with opportunities to get creative with their lineups. We'll talk about that as we wrap up here on this Tuesday edition of the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Stay with us. College basketball is nonstop. Big games, tight spreads, momentum swings every single night. From early tip-offs to late-night West Coast shootouts, there's always action on the board. And now FanDuel is giving you a way to turn that energy into even bigger potential wins with a college basketball parlay profit boost. You can build any college hoops parlay you want, rivalry games, ranked matchups, whatever fits my read. You can mix spreads, totals, and player props to match how you see the slate playing out. Then you can apply the profit boost and instantly bump up the potential payout. Look at the odds around your team and see where they potentially stack up. Go safe, go bold, ride with the team you've been following all season. If your parlay, your style, now more with upside behind it. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. FanDuel, play your game. Final segment here in the Oklahoma City Thunder Squad Show. Jeremy Lamb, Derek Parker, Rylan Stiles, Tyler Jones back here with you now. Let's start with our new guy, Derek, to begin our final segment. If you haven't already, folks, you need to go check out the SI Oklahoma City Thunder site. There's a great article Derek did today or within the last couple of days talking about the versatility that the bigs have for this Oklahoma City team. And what's so fascinating is you hear a lot of people talk about Oklahoma City, that they don't have enough size or they don't have enough bigs. And contrary to popular belief, there's some flexibility that they have here with Hart, with Chet, with Jaylin Williams and company, with the things that they can do with these lineups and what they can match up with depending on who they face. Derek, the bigs are actually one of the strengths of this team. What say you? Tell us more about what you wrote there.
Yeah, I'm just constantly enamored with the ball skills that some of these guys have at 7 foot. A lot of teams across the league want even one of these guys that can function as kind of a hub like Isaiah Hartenstien and Jay Will can. And they've got two, as well as Chet Holmgren, who again at 7 foot has some of the better on-ball skills for a 7-footer that we've seen in the entire league. So the fact that they have three of these guys that can, run DHOs, hit open cutters and shooters, and just generally kind of move the ball the way they can is such a luxury. It's such a versatile, thing they can put across their lineup, whether it's Hartenstien and Chet Holmgren in the starting lineup, where Hartenstien isn't doing as much of the hub stuff, but there's those big actions where, Chet can run a pick and roll with him, or they can give the ball to Hartenstien to make plays and do whatever. Or there's the secondary lineups where Hartenstien is the guy, the primary playmaker on the roster, hitting shooters in Isaiah Joe, Jared McCain, cutters, Aaron Wiggins, other bigs. And then Jaylin Williams can do all of these things too. So it's such a luxury. They have so much versatility. Obviously, the guards get talked about on this team a lot. Shai is a superstar. J-Dub, so versatile across so many different things. You've got Case and Wallace, AC, but the bigs on this roster too are such a huge part of what makes this thing work.
Yeah, and Jeremy, I think a big part of it, to Derek's point, is Jaylin Williams here with his emergence, the player that he's become this year, taking a huge step forward. We mentioned it last week. That game he had against Detroit with 30 points was unbelievable. I know he was held scoreless the other night against Dallas here, but with how far Jaylin Williams has come along and with the confidence that Mark has shown in him, that's really created an opening in this rotation with what they can do here.
Yeah, he's very unique in terms of he's a big guy who takes charges. Most of the time people trying to go up over, the big man, whatever. he takes, I don't know how many charges a game, but every time I look up, somebody's running him over. He can guard in the pick and roll. And then on the offensive end, he might hit 3 or 4 threes, or he might just play his role that game and set great screens. I said a couple weeks back he had some great backdoor passes, passes that not many point guards is making, the way he can thread the needle. And then, you got iHeart, who is great with that floater in the middle, but also making the right play. You rarely watching the game and think, they're not making the right play. They legit try to make the right play. They're aggressive at the same time, but more times than not, the open man is getting the ball. And then for them to be in there at the same time, they're both unselfish. You can't pick on them because one is meeting you at the rim, one is taking charges. They both can catch lobs. It's a great lineup and a great luxury to have through the playoffs. You might have bigger lineups you're playing against, or you might have to go small ball if you got to pick up the pace, just whatever it is. But just having that option to, be a big team. And then also Chet, and it just, at times it looked like they don't have size, but when you really look at it and they're playing hard out there, giving it their all, they got enough size to win it again for sure.
Rylan, when you look at Chet, let's talk about him for a moment here. We know that he's had an all-star campaign, that he's played so well, but his growth as a player, it seems like Mark's been more comfortable to let him be out there on his own and play 4 guards at times as one of those many options they have of that flexibility that they offer here.
Yeah, I mean that's part of what they drafted Chet Holmgren to be as a center, and then that's part of what he did his entire first year active on the team. Was he never played double bigs until Isaiah Hartenstien arrived, and you can kind of go back to that. You have so much versatility now. You can lean on that, which is what your initial plan was, and then Isaiah Hartenstien, gets into the fold here as the biggest free agent signing in Thunder history. So that was huge to add that dynamic to this team, and it just allows you to have the versatility to play all these guys at the same time. If it's Joe, if it's McCain, both of those guys are red hot. Plus Shai, plus you've got J-Dub that you need to throw in the mix, and then you just have Chet be the lone center there. He's gotten a lot better. Foundational strength is what Mark always calls it, but he has put on strength, even though it is tougher to see with the naked eye that he's improved physically. He really has. You can see the beating that he takes every single night. You see the 21 rebounds he had the other night. And now that this team is starting to get, the big picture starting to get fully healthy, you're seeing his offense uptick again. A quiet 19 points against Dallas because they all came on the back of these guys finding him and letting him finish off plays. Even Isaiah Hartenstien throwing him a couple lobs. Obviously, Shai setting him up. It's really helped this Thunder team out for sure to have all these options.
Derek, we talk about all these various lineups and different things that they can do. But one thing I think about as well is just the foul game, the foul situation. Just having more bodies in the different things you can do is going to make life a lot easier, especially in these postseason games when, you don't always know what you're getting out of these officials, whether they're going to be whistle happy or not. Just having those extra bodies is going to go a long way, even in games that could come down to who's going to be available, who's going to foul out, who's playing in foul trouble or not here.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beauty of the Thunder system, is that they're not a team, that's going to go play 7 to 8 guys 40 minutes a night. They're always going to be a team that plays 10, 11 guys. And that's, of course, going to get cut down a little bit in the postseason, but they're still going to be a team that employs tons of different lineups and all these things. The one I point to is against Denver. They obviously roll out Chet Holmgren and Isaiah Hartenstien, 2 7-footers in the starting lineup. Then they let Jaylin Williams, J. Will, match up against Jokic for a good amount of the time. And he's so strong. And is he going to stop Jokic every single time down the floor? Of course not. But, he's muscling up and he's playing physically and he's tiring Jokic out. And after a little bit of that, you get to bring Hartenstien and Chet back in, fully rested, 2 7-footers, both good at defense. That's just a luxury that no other teams really have, especially in terms of Jokic specifically. And of course, this goes all the way through the guards as well. It's the exact same thing with Lou Dort and Cason Wallace and Alex Caruso. You can tire out a superstar scorer with one of these guys, and one guy's getting rest on the bench. So it's just an unbelievable roster, top to bottom.
Yeah, and then on top of that, Rylan, we know about all these bigs, but they get kind of some relief of sorts at times with these big guards that can take on guarding some of the other bigs at times. When what we've seen with Caruso and Lou Dort, like those guys can make life easier and help them out too.
Yeah, I mean, the matchup dependent, they can play really small. They can have Kenneth Williams play the 5. They can have Jada play the 5, Alex Caruso play the 5. And that just gives you some reprieve for those small segments, which end up adding up over the course of a 48-minute game. So I think that the Thunder's ability also, not just for the rest factor of their 3 bigs, but for the simple fact of keeping opposing coaches on their toes. And we've seen some coaches like Willie Green, for example, not handle it very well whenever you have a Thunder team who can change the dynamics of what their lineups look like from the moment to moment like that. You look at last year's playoff run, besides Rick Carlisle, nobody really adjusted really well to the Thunder, especially not Chris Finch in the Western Conference Finals to the Thunder, starting double bigs, then going small, then getting one big in there, then going small again, then going back to double bigs. Like, it just gives you the optionality to really keep teams guessing. And if you can keep teams on their heels and keep them trying to react to you, then it always puts you in the driver's seat to control a game.
Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in to the Locked On Thunder podcast. Make sure to subscribe and follow the Locked On Thunder podcast. You get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Clubber is built for you. Get the Locked On Thunder podcast ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. Head to lockedonthunder.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you the first ever 24/7 national NBA YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen, NBA Game Night, on Locked On NBA. Guys, we got a few more minutes before we wrap up here at this point. So we've talked about Jay Will, we've talked about Chet. Let's touch on iHeart real quick. Jeremy, what's been kind of your thoughts on what we've seen? I know he's been so banged up, but when he's been out there, iHeart's been a huge part of this team, and imagine that when we get to the postseason that he's going to play a significant role again with this flexibility, these lines we're talking about here.
Yeah, that's the only thing. I mean, it's been the story this whole year for, a lot of them. But yeah, just you want him to be healthy, because when he is out there, he's doing everything that you want in a big man. Like I say, he's protecting the rim, he's making plays, setting good screens, he's physical, he has his teammates back. He's one of the backbones of the team. So when he's out there, you always feel comfortable. You got somebody beside you that's going to fight, somebody that's going to give it his all. And that's why when somebody like that maybe make a bad play or miss a shot, it's like, we know you was trying to do the right thing. Let's stay with it. So he's been great when he's been out there. Yeah, the only thing now, hopefully he can just get a little more healthy. He got time, but time is ticking. So, but I love how he's played this year, and he's only getting better.
Derek, there might be times where we see iHeart in the postseason have a couple games where he's the second leading scorer on this team. Like his offensive ability, I think, so underappreciated, so underrated.
Yeah, he's a guy who he obviously can score. Again, 7 foot. He's got a lot of skill with the ball. He's also just a guy that, like Jeremy said earlier, is going to make the right play, especially him more than anyone. Like, he is just a guy that looks to meld into the lineup, whether you need playmaking from him, whether you need scoring at the rim, whether you need defense or a little bit of everything in between. He's just the ultimate glue guy at center. Again, so physical, tough. He's kind of that enforcer that when something happens, he's the first one to step up and say something. So exactly the type of guy you want at the 5 spot for an impending playoff push.
Yeah, certainly so. Rylan, to wrap this all up, the bigs, like I feel like the vibes, the confidence is about as good as we've ever seen it with this group right now.
Yeah, and it should be. I think that you have a lot of confidence also because of the clarity that you have of like, that J. Will is going to make a massive impact in the postseason should you match up with Denver. You know that, of course, Isaiah Hartenstien will play a massive role for this team. Chet Holmgren, a massive role for this team. And everybody kind of has their role, their identity, and it makes it easier to just have a cohesive unit together whenever everyone's supporting one another and so comfortable in what they're being tasked with for the greater mission of the entire roster. And again, just having the ability to have that optionality is huge for OKC and trying to defend this title and trying to, again, make history. I mean, in a way, of just snapping this parity era, being the first repeat winner since 2018, if they can get it done. I'm really excited about the downstretch of this season.
Certainly. Rylan, more coverage tonight, the next couple days of Thunder basketball right here on the channel.
That's right. Recapping the Bulls game tonight, recapping the Knicks game tomorrow. Of course, we'll have a squad show. We'll have some bonus shows for you as well, talking hopefully with Locked On Knicks tomorrow about that fun game between OKC and New York tomorrow night and so much more. So make sure you subscribe anywhere you get your podcast from, including on YouTube, to never miss an episode because we have plenty of episodes out there for you.
Great stuff, guys. We're glad to have you on board and welcome to the show, man. Great job from you and Jeremy and Rylan, our entire crew. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. More coverage from Rylan coming up later tonight, post game, and of course another squad show coming your way on Thursday. We will see you then. So long, everybody.